Hi, everybody. I'm Ann Morato. I'm the Director of Content Strategy for Modern Salon, and I am delighted to be sitting across in virtual space uh, to Christina Russell. And Christina's the CEO of Radiance Holdings. Radiance Holdings represents Sola Salons, which is the largest and fastest growing salon studio, and Woodhouse Spas, the largest premium day spa brand in the US. So we have a lot to cover because I was so intrigued by some of the things you're speaking to right now, Christina. And I wanted to just jump in with some general questions and then we'll go macro to a little bit more micro if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. So I wanted to know right away because I understand Sola specifically has had kind of a record-breaking year. And I wanted to know why you think the popularity of that sweet life is booming. What do you think is the appeal?
Yeah, it has been booming for a long time, Anne, and I feel like a lot of that just comes from the true entrepreneurial spirit that I think underpins the business community general in America, and that sort of took hold in the spa world about, if it really kind of caught fire about maybe a little over a decade ago when Solo really started growing. And many other suites concepts have grown in around us. And I think it's sort of sharing with these hairstylists that there is more of a career path beyond just an endpoint in a salon. And we at Sola, I think, recognize that we're not necessarily the endpoint. We're actually, in many cases, a launching pad for them to open their own salons. And so I think it's a lot of that entrepreneurial spirit. I think this year, what we're seeing is still the continuation of a trend that got really strong during COVID. And so in 2020, when a lot of hairstylists were trying to figure out how to operate and operate safely in the sort of pandemic environment, they found suites to be a good alternative to working side by side in salons and crowded environments. And that was what drove them out of salons into independence for a period of time. And many of them found that the sort of lifestyle that it accommodated was really interesting to them, because you'll hear them talk about, making good money, which they value, but it's also the ability to set their own schedules and to have some independence around the types of products and services and all of that they offer. And so I think it's just a real appeal from that entrepreneurial side.
And that explains certainly the professional point of view, but they need those consumers to be walking through the doors to be successful. What do you think consumers see the benefit and why are they flocking to that model as well?
What amazed me as a newcomer to the beauty sector back in 2019 when I started with Sola is the incredible loyalty of customers to their hairstylists. And then we all know this individually. Like I follow my hairstylist anywhere. I've driven up to 3 hours to try to get to my hairstylist when she's moved throughout my life. And it's one of those things where I think that loyalty helps a lot, because what the consumer is really looking for is someone who has the skill and the ability to help them achieve whatever it is that they're looking for from a beauty perspective, and that sort of indulgence. And I saw a quote from Dolly Parton the other day. I'm trying to think who posted it, but it just struck me, because it's like the most important person in a woman's life is her hairstylist. And I thought that's pretty much true. It's like, you've got that person, but I think that loyalty helps a lot for consumers. On the Sola side, because we are a franchise, it allows us to grow into markets very quickly. And so each one of our locations is actually independently owned and operated by a local franchisee who builds into that market in the location that really makes sense. So, we're located in main street shopping centers in places where consumers are going anyway. And the name has become recognized. People have started to understand what Sweets is because of the prevalence of Sola. So with 20,000 hairstylists across 700 or so locations right now, people know what Sola is and they feel comfortable getting into that Sweets environment.
That's a wonderful answer and so positive, but I'm going to ask something that is looming large in our conscience right now that is a little bit more of a downer because we all are concerned. I mean, we see the effects of inflation right now.
Yeah.
Um, and because you have this really sort of 360 view, you are seeing how beauty professionals are responding to the realities of inflation. How do you see them kind of navigating and managing? Are they raising prices? What are they doing when their costs are going up and costs for their clients are going up?
Yeah, what we have seen for several years now is really a push on the part of the stylists themselves to command what they're really worth. And you often see this when folks come to independence, particularly when they come from higher end salons, that there's almost a worry, like, should I be charging what we were charging when I was working for, the big salon, or should I reduce my rates for the clients that are coming in? And we have always encouraged stylists to really lean in with one another and hear each other's stories. And those stories consistently say, believe in yourself. And so, I mean, what you guys do in Modern Salon is so similar. I mean, you're promoting constantly that career path and helping salons and stylists to really understand that the customer is willing to pay it if you're delivering a really great quality of service. So we've had education and resources for many years that promote this. But what we're seeing right now in response to the recession is hunger for more of that, hunger for backfilling books, because the other effect of the sort of times we're in right now, it's not just inflation, but it's also some of the recessionary pressures where perhaps a client like me that goes every 4 weeks, if she's economically challenged, may end up stretching to 5 or 6. So how do you backfill more clients into your book to be able to make up for that? So we provide a lot of that as a brand. We provide a lot of education and support materials, and we partner with others in the industry like Modern Salon and some of the big brands that are trying to get out there with education as well on these kinds of topics. But I think that's where you see that drive of independence is saying, tell me how to take care of me. Tell me how to be self-reliant. Tell me what I need to pivot and change to be able to survive a little bit of a different economy until things improve again.
That's a beautiful segue, because I did want to touch on recession. And as you mentioned, what so typically happens is consumers start to back off. They're not going as frequently. I mean, that is what has happened in the past. So I'm just assuming that there's going to be some of that. But you mentioned that you provide sort of some support and you provide some ways to kind of get through these times. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
For sure. So one of the things that Sola has really emphasized since its inception is that it is more than just a studio. It is about supporting the hairstylist to live the life of her dreams. And a big piece of that is what the traditional salon industry has always done well, which is partnering with the major brands and things to be able to bring education to the hairstylist so that she's furthering her career path. So Sola has been doing this for many years through tools like Sola Pro. And we're currently revamping our Sola University program to be able to better support stylists. And our franchisees love this. It's sort of a layering effect of things that we do well in franchising. So this is what franchising is all about, is really supporting the independent business owner to be successful in their Sola franchise. And then sort of the meta version of that is that we also support these independent hairstylists to be successful in their independent businesses. But it's those mobile types of programs, things that they can dip into, right-sized for the hairstylist and the independent mindset. So small bites of education that help them to rethink that, often through the voices of their peers. Because what do I know, in the seat that I sit in, about the reality that they experience every day, compared to many of our faces of Sola, which are these premier stylists that we bring in to really share their learnings, to become brand ambassadors and really help promote them to deeper career growth in the beauty sector. But they're the ones who have stories that can really inspire the other hairstylists to take that risk, because it takes a lot of courage to raise your prices, to be able to say to a client that's been coming to you for years, hey, listen, I know I've always charged you X, but now I need to actually raise my prices and charge you Y. So those tools and resources, simple things that they can do for that. Same thing with being proactive. So we can read the tea leaves about where the economy is going in a way that's probably different than an average independent hairstylist. And us saying to her proactively, as we go into a recession, expect that you may need to backfill your books a bit, because some of your very loyal clients will continue to be loyal, but that pulse may be a little bit different. And so when you were getting revenue every 4 weeks from a particular client, now you're going to need to backfill somebody to fill in that gap because she's coming every 6. We don't know yet that we'll see that, but it is something too that I think varies a little bit depending on the type of client that person's actually seeing.
Yes, and you're so right that being able to provide both sort of that business expertise, having that view, and the peer-to-peer education, being able to touch, on both of those is so valuable, because yes, another hairstylist, another nail technician, another tattoo artist is going to be somebody that you're going to talk to and compare notes with, but at the same time being able to tap into just some of those business smarts, that is afforded because you are this larger entity. So I found this really interesting and in something that through the discussions about arranging this interview, which I'm so happy we managed to do, is how the uptick in hybrid work, how consumers are working, how that has changed. And then naturally, how that has contributed to an uptick in beauty and wellness services. And because with Radiance Holding, you are Sola and you are also Woodhouse Spas, you have this beautiful sort of beauty, wellness, whole package view. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, the hybrid question is something that still fascinates me. I have been a big promoter of hybrid workspace or hybrid work environments through my whole career. And so I joke around that we were hybrid before hybrid was cool because we were already doing some very progressive things regarding schedules. So when COVID hit, what really changed is it went from a reality where we were mostly in the office to one where we were mostly at home. But we already had all the sort of tools and resources and ways of doing business that were making us successful in hybrid. So we just had to kind of double down on that a bit. What I see in the beauty sector is a few things. One is that when you look at like the luxury spa environment that we have at the Woodhouse, and so a lot of people don't understand what Woodhouse is, but we have 82 locations open now, and it is a luxury spa experience that puts itself on par with like the Four Seasons. It is not what you're typically seeing in sort of the transactional massage world. But what we've seen with this change to a more hybrid culture is that oftentimes our busy days of the week are not necessarily just Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is how the world was before COVID. We're starting to see that some of the spas, their busiest day of the week might be a Wednesday. And the reason for that is that customers have a lot more flexibility in their work lives now. And on a day like today, I mean, you guys are in my home office with me. You see this more and more that, this blend of work and home. If I need to slip in a massage or some kind of self-care during the day, I have the flexibility to do it now as a hybrid employee. And that's what you're seeing a prevalence of in the markets. It was definitely something that you saw happening in cities where, people were sort of in a different environment. And then there's been this incredible like sort of flight from the urban environments into the suburbs. And so we're even seeing this now in a really big way in our suburban spas. And so it's exciting to see. I think the hairstylists have always benefited from this. And oftentimes when you go to a Sola, it's counterintuitive because you go and there's obviously stylists that are operating there, very successful. You can see how the style or the studios are decorated and very, each very unique in the way that the beauty professionals run their business. But they're not always there when you go. And the reason for that is that they can adjust their schedules to have that sort of work-life integration that we benefit from in the business sector in a way that's so different from a typical brick and mortar salon. And so I think the stylists really benefit from it. And for clients like me that perhaps need a little bit more flexibility, we can all sort of meet where we need to meet. They can meet their clients where they need to be.
That's terrific. Thank you. What a great answer. And I agree. It's so interesting because it is changing the way we think about work just across every sector. So I said macro to micro, but now I guess I'm going very macro again with this last question, which is, and no pressure, Christina, what's saving the salon industry?
Well, I think the consumer demand will always be there for what we do. And I think there was a moment when I first came on board a few years ago where I could tell there was some tension, even in the beauty sector, around what we were doing for independence. And I found it fascinating because it's like, you always follow your customer in a customer-oriented business. And what shifted, whether you're a big employer like me, we have about 100 people in our corporate office at Radiance, so we employ a lot of people, or whether you're a small salon employing hairstylists, what shifted over the last few years is that the employee has actually become almost a middle customer in the way that we all need to do business. And I think what is going to be an amazing thing to watch the evolution of is you see now the entire beauty sector starting to recognize that there is a whole gamut of sort of stylist profiles that are out there. The endpoint isn't working necessarily in a chi-chi salon or opening your own salon. The endpoint could be anywhere, depending on the individual stylist. Some, what they love in their career is simplicity, and they like to work for very basic models where they're just cutting hair. Others, they love the experimental and they want to find out more about, whatever it is that's the trend, with the extensions right now, very, very hot. And you see a lot more of that showing up at Sola. Or estheticians that are going independent and thinking about, how can I set up my own facials business, even med spas showing up at Sola. And so I think what I've seen in my interactions with you all and with PBA is that the industry is starting to lean into this more. And I think it's going to be to all of our benefit to really recognize that there are a lot of flavors out there, and we have to speak to the people that are really driving the industry forward, which is at the end of the day is the hairstylists. They're the ones that have their hands on the consumer and that are making a difference in our lives. We therefore have to focus on making a difference in their lives. But it's I don't know. I think we're at a great place. I can't imagine a better place to be than beauty, even in a recession. I mean, I'm never going to give up my lipstick. Somebody used coined the phrase the other day, lipstick effect. That even in a recession, you're buying your high-end lipstick. Even in a recession, depending on where a consumer is on that economic scale, she's investing in her hair because there's nothing better feeling than a good hair day. She's going to the spa. It may change the services that she selects, but she's still showing up. And I think that's where that consumer demand meets the beauty professional, and we all thrive.
I'm in complete accord. I couldn't agree more. The beauty industry is vibrant and has survived many bumps and hiccups and will continue to do so. But I'm so grateful to have had this time to talk with you, Christina. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for showing up and answering so completely all these questions I just threw at you.
Well, we appreciate it, and we appreciate the partnership with you all as well. It's been an amazing relationship, just getting really to know you and to be a part of this amazing industry.